What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video we're going to be talking about the cameras of the Motorola Moto G 3rd edition 2015. Now a lot of you have asked me already to do a camera comparison of the Moto G with some other devices out there, and I've not really done that because I think it's unfair, because a lot of the main flagships out there which a lot of people have asked me to do comparisons with, such as the iPhone 6 and the Samsung Galaxy S6, are much more expensive smartphones altogether. So comparing them to something like the Moto G is not really fair because this is a budget device. However, I have been using this for say about the past week or so, and I've gathered my thoughts with lots of example pictures for you guys to see. So let's get straight to it. So straight away, talking about the camera, one great thing which I love about it is that it's quick to open it. You can just do this slight twist and the camera will be activated. So that's really nice to see. It's really quick to get to. In terms of the rear facing camera, the sensor, it's a 13 megapixel camera with an f2.0 aperture. Now this camera is the same as the Nexus 6 from last year. So that is pretty impressive. However, the Nexus 6 last year, I wouldn't really rate it as one of the best smartphone cameras of last year. But getting it to this budget device is definitely really good because it's a pretty decent camera, and having it at this price point is awesome. And in terms of quality, I've already been sharing some images on social media. You can actually get some really decent shots with this camera, especially outdoors when you've got lots of light. You've got some nice detail, some great colors, and dynamic range is also very good. The HDR mode on this is also pretty good if you do have some situations where you really need some highlights as well as some shadows. Now with the video, you do have 1080p and it takes some decent quality video. The problem is you don't have any optical image stabilization, so you're not going to get the most steadiest of footage. That is expected, so just bear that in mind. Now, where this camera sort of falls down is in low light. Now, I wasn't expecting it to do great in low light, so you do have lots of noise in your images in a low light, and it's not going to give you the best of results. So again, something to bear in mind. You've also got 720p slow motion. Now, they've not specified what frame rate the slow motion is at, but when the video is exported, so what's actually stored on the phone, it's at 15 frames a second, so it is a little bit choppy. Here's an example that you can see. So it's a nice option to have, but it's not going to give you super smooth slow motion or anything like that. Now before moving on to the software, let's talk a little bit about the front facing camera. So you've got 5 megapixels at f2.2. It's okay, and I think it should be sufficient for most people's selfies. But when you do start going in 100%, you do start noticing some noise, especially at low light, and it does struggle to focus in low light as well. You do have a front facing flash, they call it. It's not really a flash. All it does is it brightens up the screen just to give you a bit more light in some of those low light selfie situations. So I'd say overall the front facing camera is not too bad, but it's not great. Now let's move on to the software. Now this is somewhere where I think there is room for improvement, and this is something that Motorola could do. I've never really been a huge fan of the Motorola software on cameras on their smartphones anyway, but one of the things is they try to make things a little too easy that they actually become complicated, and that's my view on the software. You can touch anywhere to take a picture, so some people might find that easy, but what that means is then you can't touch the focus. Now this is something that I'm used to from iPhone, Samsung devices, pretty much all flagship devices which have the best cameras. You simply tap to focus and then you can take a picture using the shutter button. Here you can tap anywhere to take a picture. And if you do want to focus, then you do have a focus ring. So if you drag in from the left hand side of the smartphone, you'll get some extra options which you can then switch on and off. So one of those options is your focus circle as well as exposure circle. Now this is going to allow you to drag this focus point at different areas in order to be able to manually focus, and you can also compensate for the exposure a little bit higher or a little bit less too. So that's great to have. The only problem is you do have to drag it from place to place. I would have really liked it if you could simply touch to focus. I think that would have made life so much easier, and I think this is definitely something where I think if Motorola, if you're watching this, then do make an improvement on that. The other problem with focuses is when you're doing video, then you have to completely rely on the autofocus of this camera. You cannot tap to focus in any way. It will simply take a picture when you try to tap to focus. Now, although the autofocus is okay, it's not going to be as good as actually being able to pinpoint that focus on where you want it. So if you are going from places where it's got near focus, too far focus, then you know it really does struggle. And this is a problem I find anyway that we've had on previous Motorola cameras, where that software kind of lets it down where you can't tap to focus. Not a huge deal, don't get me wrong, but that's just my feedback on using this. So to kind of summarize, I think the important fact that I want to emphasize is that this is a budget camera. This is probably a third of many of the flagships out there, so you can't expect it to be an awesome camera. However, it is really good for the price. I think for this price, you're probably not going to find a better smartphone camera. It does take some great pictures, and it is capable of taking some really nice images, as some of the examples that you've seen. I'd advise trying to go into well-lit situations to be able to take advantage of these cameras. So that was my sort of roundup, my thoughts of the Motorola Moto G camera. What do you think of the shots that you've seen? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. The full review of the Moto G is going to be coming up soon, so if you want to see that first, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And you can also see my previous related video here on the left somewhere. Thanks for watching. This is Safo on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time.